Bioplex assay development is built on years of expertise, with a rigorous SMARTS development approach that ensures best-in-class performance. Confidence in system performance is easy with the integration of the Bioplex 200 system, software, and consumables. Engage in the immunoassay workflow you're familiar with while getting results from multiple analytes in one well, with less sample. Bioplex assay development is built on years of expertise, with a rigorous SMARTS development approach that ensures best-in-class performance. Confidence in system performance is easy with the integration of the Bioplex 200 system, software, and consumables. Engage in the immunoassay workflow you're familiar with while getting results from multiple analytes in one well, with less sample. Bioplex assay development is built on years of expertise, with a rigorous SMARTS development approach that ensures best-in-class performance. Confidence in system performance is easy with the integration of the Bioplex 200 system, software, and consumables. Engage in the immunoassay workflow you're familiar with while getting results from multiple analytes in one well, with less sample.
Hello, good morning, everyone. Welcome to Hall 2, to the slots of Industrial and Food Biotechnology and Molecular Biology session. I'm the chairperson for today, Dr. Pui from UCSI University. For our plenary speaker, today is Associate Professor T.S. Dr. Muhammad Nasir Muhammad Desa. Before I pass the time to him, let me just read out his bio. Associate Professor T.S. Dr. Muhammad Nasir Muhammad Desa is currently the Director, Halal Products Research Institute, University Putra, Malaysia. He obtained his first degree in microbiology from the University of Arizona, USA, completed his postgraduate studies at the Faculty of Medicine, University of Malaya, awarded with Master of Medical Science and Doctor of Philosophy in Medical Microbiology. He currently serves as an associate professor at the Department of Biomedical Science, Faculty of Medicine and Health Sciences, University Putra, Malaysia, teaching mainly undergraduate courses in medical microbiology and laboratory management. His earlier postgraduate research focused on the molecular epidemiology and functional genomics of clinical isolates of Streptococcus pneumonia. He is currently expanding research interests in various aspects of biomedical science, particularly in the area of microbial evolution, antimicrobials, antimicrobial resistance, and halal science. He has accumulated research grants amounting to more than 1 million ringgit Malaysia as the project head. He has supervised 25 graduate students, published about 90 research articles, 87 paperwork at local and international conferences, 7 book chapters, and filed 2 patents in meat species authentication. Since last 5 years, he has embarked on halal research specializing in DNA-based meat species specification and halal food analysis. He served as the head of lab of Halal Science Research, Halal Products Research Institute, UPM from 2015 to 2018, and involved in JAKIM projects for the development of halal authentication methods in 2017. Currently, he is the director for HPRI UPM since 2020 and a registered professional technologist in biotechnology at Malaysian Board of Technologies. He is also chair for Consortium Institute Halal IPT Malaysia, vice chair for Malaysian Corporate Network for Innovation, iConnect, Halal Supply Chain under Halal Development Corporation Berhad, and committee member for Food Analysis Halal Product, chaired by Food Safety and Quality Division, Ministry of Health Malaysia. He has been actively involved as speaker in halal awareness, management, and traceability for academia, industry, and community locally and internationally. So without further ado, let me invite Associate Professor Dr. Muhammad Nasir Muhammad Desa. I would like to pass the time to you.
Can you hear me?
Yes, loud and clear.
I have to let me put in the presentation notes. Okay, so I'm sharing my slide now.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Dr. Liu Pings. Just to update, actually, I had recently finished my terms at Halal Product Institutes. I was actually a former director. I was previously the head of the Halal Science Research, Laboratory for Halal Science Research at HPRI, but I'm still serving as the Halal Research Associate at HPRI. Now I'm back at my faculty of Medicine and Health Science, but I'm still doing the research, halal research. I'm still active. First of all, let me, since this is under industrials category, so I think I need to talk a little bit on the halal concepts because it's actually halal is a national agenda. It's a very important agenda for our economy as well as for the global economy. Halal market is actually a global economy, and interestingly, the non-Muslim countries are actually the champions in exporting halal foods. But luckily, Malaysia has been the reference for halal standards. So the topic I'm going to present today, which is actually more like a experience sharings, rather than going a very technical aspect of the halal education, which I will share some of our works, but I would like to be more like a sharing sessions because I don't want to complicate. This morning, I want to make everybody happy. We want to start our mornings with a happy, something which is, like something like to share, to see the prospects of halal. Perhaps anybody might be interested, to pursue on this particular field, because halal studies now has been gazetted as one of the halal studies at the MQA levels. Okay. SPRI is part of UPM, University Putra Malaysia, and actually we are among the pioneers in halal research in Malaysia, as well as in the world. This is where we are located, just opposite the IOI Mall, IOI Shopping Malls, Putrajaya. So everybody is welcome to drop by our institutes. If you go to shoppings, then you can just drop by and see what we're doing here. Okay, halal can be anywhere. It goes into consumers products ranging from foods, cosmetic and pharmaceuticals, services such as logistics, finance and hospitality, as well as medicines. So it can be a lifestyle, and it also requires science, engineering, technologies, and biotechnology in particular. Okay, so although it sounds like religions, but actually science is very important because it involves products. So product needs science. We need to be creative to come up with innovation in products, developments, as well as applications. So let me brief a little bit on the basics and the halal concepts in Malaysian practice before I address the role of biotechnology in halal. The fundamental is the Sharia law. And of course, to implement the law, humans are implementing the law. So to implement the law, we need integrity, good conduct, good management, good traceability as an assurance for authenticity. And this can be further facilitated through science and technologies. Okay, this is the fundamentals, the naj, the impurities. In Islam, we have categories of naj, or the impurities, which I believe, regardless of religions, a civilized person may agree on some of these as to be considered as dirt, which should not be consumed. So in Islam, we have 3 categories of naj: heavy, light, and mediums. So the heavy categories is probably unique to Muslims, and I think it's also unique for Jews, because Muslims and Jews are not allowed to eat pork. And of course, for Muslims, if you got contact on your skins, we need to cleanse it following a ritual called sirtu. And the light category is for the urines of infants, and the medium include other impurities such as bloods, feces, and vomits. These are probably, everybody would agree that these are probably considered as dirt, which, of course, if you got contaminated, we didn't want to clean it. For light and medium category, we just cleanse by using a clean water, except for the heavy categories that require special cleansings. So that is actually the basics. Okay. So pork is the highlight because it is one of the main source of meat for human consumptions. So they are farmed at a large scales, not only for meat, but its derivatives are also used in various forms that end up in the final products. So this has put a big challenge for Muslims all over the world if those are not properly declared. And other things, the alcoholic beverages and any intoxicating elements are also not allowed to be consumed and even to be used to make other foods, because sometimes we add wines to make the taste better. So anything that comes from the alcoholic beverages are not allowed. And there are also other animals which are not categorized as heavy as of pork, but there are other animals which are also not allowed to be consumed. For example, the animal with the long pointed teeth, the predators, animals that are forbidden to be killed, because in Islam we do have some animals which are not allowed to be killed. So they're not allowed to be killed, then they are not allowed to be consumed as well. Animals that live on both and land also are not allowed to be consumed. And of course, the poisonous plant, poisonous microbes, these are not safe. So these are also not allowed to be consumed. And now with the advance in biotechnology, we are able to, to genetically modify to do some genetic engineering. We take DNA from porks and put in the other forms of living beings. So that is also not considered as halal in Malaysian practice, because the DNA are still originating from porks, which is because pork is not allowed, then anything that comes from porks are also not allowed. Okay. Malaysian authorities has come up with many standards to ensure the halal compliance that applies in the various aspects during the supply and production change. So the halal assurance system is not just simply avoiding use of NASH elements, but also to avoid contacts with NASH during the supply and production change. And the conduct should be in a satisfactorily clean and hygienic manner, as well as to consider the well-being of the animals and the workers. So it's more comprehensive. So in view of the diverse industrial settings, eligible products or services for halal certifications are categorized. Currently, we have 9 schemes which are eligible for halal certifications. Perhaps the scheme can be expanded further in the future if there is need to do so. And the process is comprehensive. See, the overall concept, as you can see here, the overall concept is not just about the absence of NASH, but the whole operations will be monitored. Okay, here, the basics, the Sharia law, the basic of Sharia law is actually to ensure these halal animals and slaughterings following the Islamic ritual. But of course, it's not enough. Before the certification is approved, the whole stages of operation and manufacturing should be abiding the law. Okay, we have a current law to ensure the safety of the products. So, of course, what is the first law? The first law, of course, the manufacturers will have to register their operations, okay, so that they can operate legally, and then, of course, pay tax. That is the law. We have to, any legal operation, they have to be taxed. Of course, the rest, of course, all the safety measures will have to come in place as well. Okay, and this is to show the halal critical points, HCP, the same concept as we are familiar with the HCCP, but this is for halals. Of course, first of all, the animals, the basics, actually, the animals have to be halal, the slaughtering have to follow the rituals. But during the process, there might be some other ingredients, additive, being added in the products, okay, as well as the packaging. So all these components will have to be ensured that they are coming from halal source as well. So okay, and of course the good conducts. So there has been various quality standards available locally and internationally, which actually simply complement the halal concepts. So any manufacturers that they have, if they have these standards, that is just actually an advantage for them to get halal certification, because halal certification also consider all the safety aspects which are already in place all over the world. Okay, and to do this, of course, the JAKIM, I think you're familiar with the JAKIM as well as the Jabatan Agama Islam Negeri, JAINs, are the sole authorities to provide the halal certifications, but they are not working alone, and they cannot work alone because they do not have the expertise, especially to ensure the safety of the product. They need scientists, they need technologies, they need engineers. So the expectation is comprehensive that requires expertise from other agencies such as Ministry of Agriculture, Ministry of Health, as well as KPD and HCP to take care of consumers' rights, such as correct labelings. We don't want to get the false labels because we know our needs. Some they may have a problem with the allergies, so they want to ensure that the certain things are not present in the foods. So those things have to be labeled properly, and this is taken care under the Acts, under the KPD and HCP, correct labelings and so on. And of course, there are various other agencies with their own acts. These are the list of agencies. We have Trade Acts under KPD and HCP, Food Acts under MOH, Animal Acts under MOA, and even Custom Acts, because the process will have to follow the law. Even we have the law at the city council levels. So there are local law that we have to abide by. Okay, the other thing is the traceability. This is actually subjected to improvements. We have had probably, I think we do have a certain level of traceability systems, probably based on documentations, or probably now we are living in the digital era, probably there are some sort of electronic means of traceability. But these are always subjected to improvement because now with the advance in the IT, we have a blockchain and so on, this can be incorporated to increase the efficiency of the traceability. So traceability is actually a global concern due to the profit-driven motive that may lead to frauds all over the world. There has been frauds all over the world. We have heard case on the horse meats previously and the meat cartel and so on. So I don't know how they put the traceability in place, but probably they are relying on the documents, which is probably not very. Of course, there is a certain extent it may work, but probably there are still area where the people may cheat, along the way. But we have seen the advancement. We have seen the proliferation of online sale platforms. We have the Shopee, Lazada, and so on, where we can trace the movement of our purchased items. So perhaps the concept can be applied similarly to trace the process of products as well. Especially in the global economy now, it creates the need to assure the safety and security of any manufactured products that may diminish over the distance. So therefore, traceability is needed to compensate for this loss of control. For Muslim consumers, they may have doubt. If there is a lack of transparency of information about the origin and how a product is processed. Also during the distribution process, halal food contamination with unlawful products, non-compliant to halal slaughtering and issues. And of course, the fake logos is happening, quite frequently. The fake logos or certificates, fake certificates in product packaging. These are actually a current concerns. So this drive the need for development of technology and improvement in technology in traceability instead of relying on the documentation alone. This is a model where halal traceability can be incorporated, integrating important halal critical points, such as the animal handling at the slaughtering house, the logistics to minimize the cross-contaminations. How do we transport in a way to minimize or expose to contamination, mass contaminations, the processing to follow the good conduct, and eventually the storage and distribution should be in a proper manner. This is another model for digital traceability network where data can be shared and made accessible to consumers. So eventually it will increase consumers' trust if this information can be made available so that we know what's going on. So we are more confident to buy the products. But there would still be a challenge whether the industries or the relevant players are willing to share the data. I don't think they want to share everything. So perhaps there's something that we can share, there's something they want to keep secrets. That is just the nature of business. But at least those can be made accessible to the authorities so that we can just rely on the logo issued by the authorities for the halal status of our products. Okay, this is the halal critical points, which start from the farming and then the slaughterings. So it's very critical. So perhaps the activities during the slaughtering, the data can be recorded, okay, which start from the farming practices. I think if those in agriculture, they know a lot of things about farming issues in farming, the use of antibiotics and so on that lead to emergence of resistance. Those are not a good practice if they are not be controlled properly. So this is also part of halal, because halal requires safe products which will not harm humans. So this is also part of the halal. And we also have to be fair to the animals. So the way we slaughter, the way we we take care of the animals have to be at least there must be some standards to ensure that the well-being of the animal as well as the workers are being taken care of. So for example, during the slaughtering, we have to use a very sharp knife to ensure to reduce the pains. And also now we have a stunning, so stunning have to follow certain parameters. This is just to part of the well-being of the animals. And then the for post slaughterings, of course, the meat, whether it's safe or not, the meat quality. So we can check either by looking at the physical look, microbiological analysis, and so on. So perhaps this information can be incorporated in the database as part of the traceability to ensure the quality. And of course, now we're talking about cultured meats. So there's been a lot of issue now because cultured meat, we use bloods, and bloods are not allowed to be consumed. So perhaps in the future, the supplies are getting less, and we need to rely on the cultured meat that are propagated in labs. So how this, if you want to talk in terms from the religious perspective, or perhaps we need to look at on this to have a new definitions, and perhaps it will be the challenge for the Islamic scholars to look at this issue. And what are the benefits and challenges? Of course, in non-Muslim countries, halal certification is not only existed in Muslim countries, but they also existed in non-Muslim countries, actually a lot more. So there are more than 80 certification bodies, foreign certification bodies. So how do we ensure that they are actually following the standards? Because they are far away. So there are always skepticisms, because we have doubt. Perhaps they might just want to tap on halal market. So therefore, there is a growing skepticism among Muslim consumers and halal manufacturers about the trustworthiness and credibility of these agencies. So traceability can be the solutions, if they can really reveal that they are following the standards through the traceability system, that perhaps they will get the trust among Muslim consumers. But of course, the challenge is that will add on cost. That will always be the problem. Not the problem, actually, that will always be the challenge in business costs. So we want to reduce costs, increase profits. So, but sometimes the traceability, whether traceability is really meaningful to indicate the product safety and quality, is just to reveal the process, but whether the product is really up to the standard, actually is not part of the traceability. That is another thing, product innovations. So, and of course, traceability may bring product liability back to the manufacturers. So these are among the challenges. Okay, so this is the biotechnology. Okay, one of the main role of biotechnology is to look for alternative ingredients other than origin related to porcines or other unlawful animals. So I'm going to talk on the halal identifications of foods, because the foods may contain animal elements, especially meats, as well as the plant cellular elements. So these figures show the cellular components which we can make use as a target for detections or discrimination to identify non-halal species. And perhaps laboratory data can be integrated in the traceability database as well on the laboratory analysis as part of the assurance for authenticity, product authenticity. But so far, there are still limitations. We are able to determine the species, but there is no method yet which are really established to distinguish slaughtered meats from others of non-halal techniques. So although there has been research going on, but so far there has yet to be a very established method that can discriminate that. We can determine the meat species, but whether the meat has been slaughtered or not, we don't know. Perhaps we need to, we need more technologies to do this. This is our recent review paper that summarizes approaches for meat identifications, the targeted and non-targeted approaches. Targeted approaches take advantage of the specificity of DNA and peptide sequence that depends on the availability of the target sequence, which could be degraded during the food processing or unable to be extracted at a workable amount due to the complex mixture of processed foods. So while non-targeted approaches are based on the chemical profilings that generate chemical patterns or clusterings in association with certain animal species, in some cases, it only discriminates between animal and plants in general. We do have experience on this. So we cannot discriminate up to the species level, but we know this is plant, this is animals. So, so it's not as accurate as DNA, but depends on the food matrices. Profiling method may be feasible for oil and fat-based to discriminate LUTs, because to do the DNA extraction from oil-based foods is quite challenging. It's not easy to get DNA from oil-based, from oils or LUTs or whatever fat or oil-based foods. So basically, we use GC analysis, which I think I don't have to elaborate much on this. I think many of the participants know how they work. Gas chromatography, liquid chromatography, spectroscopy, and but most of the time the accuracy is increased with the use of chemometrics. It is a mathematical and statistical inference to visualize variation within a large multivariate data with a graphicals clustering like this. You can discriminate on graph so that we can see clearly the segregations in association with the species background or origins of the samples. This is a review paper from our colleagues in Indonesia. There has been a lot of studies on halal certification, but mostly focusing on the ingredients such as gelatins, lats, meats. But there is actually there are more actually which we have yet to be able to discriminate. For example, the enzyme has been widely used in food preparation. Enzymes, emulsifiers, and glycerides, which we are not able to discriminate yet. So we need a better technology to discriminate, to trace up to the species level. Okay, these are among the methods available at our institutes. Basically, we do have a method based on DNAs, protein profiling using a liquid chromatography. We can detect alcohols, quantitate, but we don't know the origins. Because as I said earlier, alcohols coming from alcoholic beverages are not allowed. It's considered as such, but we don't know whether it's coming from the alcoholic beverages or some other natural source. So we don't know, but we can detect and quantitate. So amino acid profiling by HPLC and fat profiling by GC-LC. So now I would like to share some of our innovations. This is our work actually utilizing the conventional PCR because we want to make it applicable to industry. They always look for cheap methods. So conventional PCR is cheap, but it's not sensitive as real-time PCR, but we do modify these particular methods. We call it common primer multiplex PCR that utilize only single forward with a specific reverse primer tagged with a synthetic sequence to increase the sensitivity. And of course, I think you are familiar with the LAM methods. We also utilize this method to detect mixed species. And here we use a portable, we have a real-time detection using a portable fluorometer, which is very rapid within 30 minutes. And now we are also exploring the NGS platforms as well as digital PCR, where we are able to detect multiple targets at one time, at the same time to quantitate. Okay, and for chemical profiling, we have done quite a huge studies on this since last 10 years. So there are a lot of publications, and these are among the recent publications. Okay, and then I would like to highlight these particular instruments. We are still we still have problem to discriminate certain elements using the GC-LC approaches. But these particular machines, we call it RMS, isotope ratio mass spectrometry, which is targeting the isotopes and generate the isotope profiling, which from my knowledge, the application is still less in halal identifications. It has been used. This is not new technology. It has been around, but still less in the halal identifications. So this is just a model to show the potential sensitivity of RMS. If you have 3 different car of the same models, same car, different models that lead to the different petrol efficiency, and this different petrol efficiency can be actually profile can be discriminated using RMS. So it sounds convincing. And Malaysian Nuclear Agency has been using this technique to trace the honey, whether it's adulterate or whether it's authentic or adulterated. And the outcome is quite promising. They can trace the adulterated honey. So now perhaps we can expand this particular instrument to trace for halal purposes that involve the animals or those difficult elements such as emulsify and so on. Perhaps they could be discriminated using this particular technology. And of course, there are a lot more challenges. Now we're talking about foods. Halal food has been there for a long time, but now we are moving forward into halal pharmaceutical, halal cosmetic, where the formulation involves the use of chemicals. A lot of chemical coming from animals and plant origin. So these are some examples of the chemical that are commonly used in the formulations. How are we going to authenticate this? We can identify the elements, but we do not know the origins. That's what we want to find out. So we need a new technology in order to allow us to do this. And of course, the herbal products, which are they really authentic, or they has been added with certain chemicals to increase the biological effects. Perhaps if we take a certain medicinal product, you can feel the difference, but the effect is actually due to the added chemicals, not directly from the natural source, from the herbs. So this has been happening elsewhere. So this study has addressed some of the common adulterant that have been used in the formulation in herbal medicine products. So which is, we don't know long term there might be side effects. So lastly, this is the correct halal logo. Make sure you know the correct, exactly what is actually how it looks like, because there have been so many fake logos around. And then of course the Malaysia halal is a national agenda. So we do have agencies that take care on the different aspect of halal. So we have JAKIM for certification, we have HDC that look into the promotions, business, halal business, and so on. And they do recently, they established the platforms. They call it halal integrated platform. It's a digital platform where all the data related to the where we can get halal foods, who are actually the halal suppliers. So all are being integrated. So this database will be very useful for consumers as well for the industry players to look for raw materials. And that's all. Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Nasir, for the insightful session on the trends, how they move from in-depth research in the area of halal food, and nowadays go to focus more on pharmaceutical and also different halal detection method as well. Thank you very much, Dr. Nasir. Okay, now we'd like to move on to the next presenter. That is Dr. Yanti Noziana. Let me share about her profile before we move on to the next one. Dr. Yanti obtained her first degree in biotech from University Putra Malaysia. She also completed her postgraduate studies from UPM, awarded with Master of Science for Biotechnology and also Doctor of Philosophy in Halal Products Development. She currently serves as a senior lecturer at the Department of Food Technology and Bioprocess, Faculty of Food Science and Nutrition, University Malaysia Sabah, teaching mainly undergraduate courses in food science and technology and also laboratory management. Her early postgraduate research focused on esterification of fats and oil for food products and also formulation of fat substitutes using plant-based meats, simulating the properties of lard. She is currently expanding her research interests in various aspects of food science and technology, particularly in the area of modification of fats and oil, halal science, and also product development. She has published about 50 research articles, 1 book, and also 4 book chapters. Now I can pass the time to Dr. Yanti. Time is yours.
Thank you very much, Dr. Pui Liu Ping, for your introduction. Assalamualaikum and good morning to everyone. So today I would like to present a project about esterification of plant-based fat, palm oil and soybean oil as a lard substitute. Can you see my slides?
Yes.
So this is the co-researchers for this project. There are Associate Professor T.S. Dr. Hasmadi Mamat from University Malaysia Sabah, Associate Professor T.S. Dr. Muhammad Nasir Muhammad Desa from University Putra Malaysia, Associate Professor Dr. Helmi Wasuh also from University Putra Malaysia, Associate Professor Bangun Prajantan Nusantara from University Gajah Mada Indonesia. So this is the outline for this topic, which is introduction, preparation of interestified preparation of interesterified oil blends, analysis, findings, and lastly is conclusion. So for introduction, animal body fats such as pork fat or lard, beef tallow, mutton tallow, and chicken fat have been used as ingredient in food preparation. So lard is a substance extracted from adipose tissue of swine. Lard has been used in many Europe countries and also other countries as an ingredient in certain types of biscuits, snake, rice, cakes, and mooncakes. So lard is also used as a shortening because it has a good consistency to be incorporated into foods such as breads, cakes, pastry, and other baked products. So it possesses high quality of flakiness effect on the pastry baking. There is also a tendency to incorporate lard as ingredient in chocolate making as it could give a satisfaction on the mouth feeling while consuming it. Apart from using it as a food ingredient, it has also been used as a good heat transfer medium in cooking. However, any food products containing lard are prohibited to scholars for both religion of Islamic and Orthodox. Therefore, formulating alternative halal fats are required for Muslim and Jew scholars. So, what is the alternative to lard? In this case, we should use plant sauce, which is naturally semi-solid at room temperature, and it has a capability to impart the plasticity and body to the finished products. So in this study, we have used palm oil and soybean oil as our raw materials. So palm oil is one of the major oils traded in the global edible oils and fats market. Oil palm tree grows in the tropical climate and it bears fruit from 30 months after planting. So it's about 25 to 30 years economic lifespan. The fruit bunches are harvested every 10 to 15 days and each fruit contains about 20 to 25% oil. Palm oil is easily available all year round as oil palm are non-seasonal in nature. So this is a oil palm fruit bunch and it can be extracted to crude palm oil, which is almost orange reddish in color, and also RBD palm oil, which are refined, bleached, and deodorized palm oil. So in this project, we have used RBD palm oil. So palm oil is a semi-solid at room temperature because it's balanced ratio of unsaturated fatty acid and saturated fatty acid. And palm oil also contain 40% oleic acid, 10% linoleic acid, 44% palmitic acid, and 4% stearic acid as a major fatty acids in palm oil. So oleic acid and linoleic acid we categorize in an unsaturated fatty acid, while palmitic acid and stearic acid we categorize in saturated fatty acid. So this is triacylglycerol or TAG composition of palm oil. So the major TAG is palmitic or PPP, POP, palmitic, oleic palmitic, POO, and OOO. So this major triacylglycerol we are categorized in a group of TAG, which are the predominant major TAG was monounsaturates, followed by diunsaturates, triunsaturates, and trisaturates. So the ideal value is about 54, and the slip melting point is about 30.5 degrees Celsius. So this one is about soybean oil. The soybean is a species of legume which widely grown in East Asia for its edible bean. Soybean is the most important protein source for feed farm animals. And soybean also is one of the major oil traded in the global edible oils and fats market. So these are the major fatty acid composition of soybean oil, which linoleic acid is the predominant fatty acid, followed by oleic acid and palmitic acid. So as we can see here, the overall unsaturated fatty acid in soybean oil is higher than saturated fatty acid. So this is the triacylglycerol composition of soybean. So the major TAG is LLL and LOL, which is about 61% in the triunsaturated groups, TAG groups, and followed by diunsaturated, which are about 40%, and the major TAGs are PLL and POL, and monounsaturated is the least, which are about 3%, which is the major fatty acid, which is the major triacylglycerol was PPL. So the combination of triacylglycerol molecules formed by oleic and linoleic and small amount of palmitic acid could be responsible for liquid nature displayed by soybean. So it also had high amount of diunsaturated and triunsaturated triacylglycerol, which could be a probable reason for the soft nature of soybean. So the ideal value is high, is about 137, while the sleep melting point is cannot determine because it's liquid at room temperature. So this is about palm oil and soybean blends for non-inter-estified. So according to the previous study, palm oil, soybean at the ratio 60 to 40 could be improved the characteristic for lard substitute after modification techniques such as inter-esterification. However, it is assumed that the enzymatic inter-esterification could give a better compatibility of solidification behavior to lard. Based on solid fat content or SFC profile, palm oil and soybean with a ratio 60 to 40 was compatible to lard within 30 to 40 degrees Celsius temperature range. However, the solid fat content value were higher within 0 to 10 degrees Celsius as compared to lard. Moreover, palm oil and soybean has beta form polymorph, which is similar to lard. So according to O'Brien 2004, fat with a beta form polymorph are suitable for shortening purposes. They are softer and display good aeration with creaming properties. It is preferred for the production of fat-rich foods such as cakes, biscuits, and other confectionery products. So the objective of this study is to investigate the potential of inter-esterified palm oil soybean 60 to 40 blends using immobilized rhizomucor lipase for 6, 12, and 24 hours to produce lard substitute. So the blend was prepared 70% palm oil and 40% soybean oil, and inter-esterified using 1% immobilized rhizomucor at different duration time at 6, 12, and 24 hours. So the analysis will be fatty acid composition, triacylglycerol composition, and solid fat content. So this is the result and discussion. It's about fatty acid contents of inter-esterified blends and lard. So we compare non-inter-esterified blend with a different duration of inter-esterified blend and lard. So according to this table, we can see that palm oil, soybean at 60 to 40 ratio, at 6 hours of inter-esterification process, it gives the overall unsaturated fatty acid and overall saturated fatty acid, which are compatible to lard. So from this, overall predominant fatty acid of lard, palm oil and soybean, and inter-esterified palm oil and soybean blends were oleic, palmitic, and linoleic acid. So the longer duration of inter-esterification of palm oil soybean blends caused slight increment in linoleic and oleic acid proportion with concurrent decrease of palmitic acid. So it's shown that this after inter-esterification, the unsaturated fatty acid is higher than saturated fatty acid. So after 6 hours of inter-extraction process, the blend of palm oil soya bean had comparable proportion of unsaturated fatty acid and saturated fatty acid of lard. So these are quite interesting results from this study. So we go for TAG composition. So in the same way, we compared non-inter-esterified palm oil soya bean with inter-esterified palm oil soya bean blends at different duration of interification technique and also lard. As we can see here, okay, from this, the percentage of OOL and POL were found to be compatible to that of lard. So after inter-esterification of palm oil soya bean at 60:40 ratio, the di and triunsaturated TAG molecules were found to increase with concurrent decrease in disaturated and trisaturated triacylglycerol. When compared to lard, the inter-esterified blend were found to have lower amount of mono and diunsaturated but higher amount of triunsaturated triacylglycerol. So based on TAG group, the di and trisaturated TAG of inter-esterified palm oil soya bean at the ratio 60:40 at 6 hours was compatible to lard. So this is the solid fat content of inter-esterified lard with non-inter-esterified. It's a solid fat content of lard, non-inter-esterified of palm oil and soya bean, and also inter-esterified palm oil soya bean blends at different duration times. So SFC or solid fat content of a fat is mainly responsible for many its characteristics, including appearance or acidification, functional and organoleptic properties. So solid fat content profile is important since it has a great influence on the suitability of fat or fat blend for a specific application. So the solid fat content values of all inter-esterified palm oil, soya bean blends and lard were compatible at 30 degrees Celsius and beyond. The solid fat content values of the fat blend inter-esterified for 6 hours were found to become closely similar to those of lard at 5 to 10 degrees Celsius and beyond 30 degrees Celsius. So among the three blends of palm oil soya-bean, the blends of palm oil soya-bean at 60 and 40 ratio at 6 hours showed a better compatibility and least different to lard at most of temperatures in the range mentioned above. So as you can see here, so after inter-esterification process, if you prolong the duration time, there is a big slope here around 0 degrees Celsius to 30 degrees Celsius. So we can see here from this. So as a conclusion and recommendation, the fat blend palm oil soya-bean at the ratio 60:40 inter-esterified for 6 hours showed the closest similarity to the properties of lard in terms of overall saturated and unsaturated fatty acid composition, disaturated and trisaturated triacylglycerol group, and least different in solid fat content value. For future study, the physical properties of this inter-esterified blend should further be investigated for its thermal profile by DSC, polymorphic form, texture, rheological, and microstructure properties. Studies should also be done to evaluate the performance of formulated palm oil soya-bean blend at 6 hours as food ingredients for meat products such as sausage, burger, patties, salami, and etc., and bakery products such as cake, cookies, and so on. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Yanti. just for all the participants' information, later on, after all the oral presentation has presented, we'll have an oral Q&A session with Dr. Nasir, Dr. Yanti, and also the rest of the oral participants, presenters. Okay, so if you have any question, you can comment in the chat and we will start with the Q&A later at 12 to 12:15 p.m. Okay. Next, we will have the oral presentation. However, we will take a short break of 5 minutes. We'll come back again at 11:20 to start with the rest of the oral presentation. Thank you.
Bioplex assay development is built on years of expertise with a rigorous SMARTS development approach that ensures best-in-class performance. Confidence in system performance is easy with the integration of the Bioplex 200 system, software, and consumables. Engage in the immunoassay workflow you're familiar with while getting results from multiple analytes in one well with less sample. Bioplex assay development is built on years of expertise with a rigorous SMARTS development approach that ensures best-in-class performance. Confidence in system performance is easy with the integration of the Bioplex 200 system, software, and consumables. Engage in the immunoassay workflow you're familiar with while getting results from multiple analytes in one well with less sample. Bioplex assay development is built on years of expertise with a rigorous SMARTS development approach that ensures best-in-class performance. Confidence in system performance is easy with the integration of the Bioplex 200 system, software, and consumables. Engage in the immunoassay workflow you're familiar with while getting results from multiple analytes in one well with less sample.
Okay, welcome back everyone. So Now we are going to proceed on with the oral presentations. Well, the first oral presenter is Mr. Abu Hashim from University of Malaya and National Institute of Biotechnology, Bangladesh. His presentation is on nanocomposite-based electrochemical DNA biosensor for detection of pig and turtle species. Mr. Abu Hashim, the time is yours. You can start by sharing the slides.
Thank you. My name is Abu Hashim, a PhD student from Nanotechnology and Catalysis Research Center, University of Malaya. I am going to present a newly developed biosensor for the detection of meat species. The title of my presentation is Nanocomposite-based electrochemical DNA biosensor for the detection of pig and turtle species. Importance of meat. Meat has high quality proteins with essential amino acids, micronutrients like vitamins and minerals, indirect source of energy, good flavor and taste, boost of immunity. It is considered as source of balanced diet consumed all over the world. Due to its high demand and high price, it has become the target of adulteration. Picture shows some incidents of pork meat adulteration. Falsified meat product is a global problem existing for centuries, but why is pork authentication is a concern? Because it has poor quality meat, carriers of many diseases, forbidden in several religions. 2 billion people concerned about halal meat. Importance of turtle. It has high value as an exotic food item and in traditional medicine, therapeutics, and stimulating agent. They are natural scavengers, have contribution in ecological balance. They are endangered. They are listed as vulnerable to extinction by IUCN. Why detection and protection of turtle? Turtle are smuggling through illegal ways due to its demand in traditional medicine. Picture shows some incidents of illegal turtle smuggling through airport. Impact of pork adulteration, economic loss, bad impact on health, religious concern, ethical issue, and not suitable for vegetarian lifestyle. And turtle smuggling may lead to extinction, ecological imbalance, food imbalance in ecosystem, negative impact on coastal economies. That is why different methods have been developed. Among them, protein and DNA-based methods are noteworthy. Protein-based methods are not suitable due to their denaturing nature at high temperature during cooking. On the other hand, DNA-based methods are specific, sensitive, and reliable, but they are costly, require sophisticated equipment, trained manpower, and not suitable for on-site monitoring. On the other hand, DNA-based biosensors are rapid, simple, easily applicable, selective, durable, portable, and on-site monitoring devices. Research gap and scope. Although few research have been conducted on DNA biosensor method, no established method is available for meat species authentication. Thus, there is a good scope for DNA biosensor development. Objective of our study to design DNA probes targeting the mitochondrial cytochrome B gene and modify them with carbon spacer arm and a thiol modifier group to facilitate immobilization on electrode surface. To develop an electrochemical DNA biosensing platform by immobilizing designed DNA probe on modified transducer surface for the selective, sensitive, and reliable detection of our target. Third, to assess the biosensor performance with synthetic complementary DNA and authenticate them with DNA isolated from meat sample. Methodology, there are 3 parts in methods. First part one is probe design. Second one is electrode modification and characterization. Finally, assessment of biosensor performance with synthetic DNA, followed by authentication with real sample DNA. Detection procedure at a glance. Pin-printed carbon electrode modification with graphene and gold. P-design DNA probe was immobilized on modified electrode surface, hybridized with target DNA. Assessment of target in presence of methylene blue using DPB. This is the partial view of the aligned DNA sequence of pork. This is our proof sequence 223 base pair in length, and this is complementary sequence. This is intentionally induced sequence of other species, and this is the intentionally induced mismatch sequence. The full nucleotide sequence are shown here. Red color indicate mismatch to the target one. Similarly, this is the aligned sequence of turtle. Here, proof sequence is 31 base pair in length. This is the full nuclear sequence of turtle and their respective counterpart. Red color indicate mismatch to the target one. Characterization: the modified electrode wire characterized morphologically, structurally, and electrochemically. These are morphological characterization. This is the image of SEM image, and this is the EDX image. These are the UV spectra, and these are FTI spectra. These are electrochemical studies. This is based on the scan. This is based on the scan rate of variation of CB. This is the CB of defined modified electrode. This is the DPB of defined modified electrode, and this is the EIS. All this evidence suggests that the graphene and gold modified electrode has the highest conductivity and suitable as the sensor platform. We also optimized the hybridization condition. Hybridization time was found to be 40 minutes, and hybridization temperature was found to be 30 to 40 degrees as optimum. We carry out specificity of the biosensor toward target DNA. Figure clearly demonstrate biosensor selectivity toward target DNA. A histogram was drawn with peak current and shown here. We carried out similar studies for turtle species detection. This is the sensitivity. We carried out sensitivity of the electrochemical DNA biosensor for pork and turtle separately using DPB. This is the sensitivity studies of pork. Linear range was found to be 10 picomolar to 5 micromolar, and LOD was 0.98 picomolar for pork. This is the sensitivity of the turtle. Linear range was the same, and with slightly different LOD, 0.85 picomolar. We also studied the porosity of the biosensor. RSD value was found to be less than 3% in both cases. After the method validation with synthetic DNA, we carried out biosensor performance with real sample DNA for both the pig and turtle detection. This is the UVB curve for pork detection. This is target. This is other species. This is the UVB curve for turtle. This is target turtle, and this is for other species. Conclusion: we have successfully designed and modified probe immobilized probe onto nanoparticle modified thin printed carbon electrode, characterized nanoparticle composite and modified thin printed carbon electrode, studies selectively based on hybridization with synthetic and real sample DNA. Studies sensitivity and reproducibility. Linear range was for detection was 10 picomolar to 5 micromolar for both, and limit of detection was 0.98 picomolar for pork and 0.85 molar for cattle. That's all from me. Thank you for your kind attention.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Abu Hashim. We'd like to move on to the next presenter, that is Ms. Nohayati Sazali from the University of Technology Sarawak and University Putra Malaysia. Her work will be on porcine DNA detection in canned meat products sold in Sarawak using real-time PCR. Ms. Nohayati, the time is yours. Can you on your camera and also your mic? Yes, you can unmute yourself. Yeah, okay. Need to wait for your screen sharing.
Right. Sorry. Okay. Can you see my screen? Okay.
No, not yet. How about the rest? Yeah. Now can you put full screen?
All right. Okay. Can you see my screen?
Yes, but it's not full screen though.
It's not the screen.
Yes. Just
I-
one. Can you share again? Reshare again.
Okay.
Yes, can.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Dr. Pui Li Ping, and sorry for the disruption just now. Okay. A very good morning and Assalamualaikum to the audience and also to the participants of ICMBB. I would like to present my research finding entitled Porcine DNA Detection in canned meat products sold in Sarawak using real-time PCR. Let's have a look at the background of study. There is an increase or growing number of Muslim population in the world. In Malaysia, there is about 60% of Malaysian population who are Muslim. Therefore, this increase demand for halal food product, particularly for consumption. Besides, there is also an increase in investment for halal food products. However, there is also cases involving food fraud or halal food fraud due to the increased demand or investment in halal food product. There are several types of food fraud, but in this study, we are focusing on food adulteration and also mislabeling. Based on statistics, meat and poultry products has a high percentage of food adulteration. And mislabeling is also one of the issues in which there is a misuse of halal logo and also mislabeling of ingredient on food packaging. There's a lot of analytical method to detect pork species in meat product. However, for protein-based method, there is a limitation of using protein-based method due to the protein is easily denatured at high temperature. Besides that, protein also some technique like ELISA is prone to cross-reactivity. Therefore, in this study, we are focusing more on DNA-based method, okay, to detect porcine DNA in canned meat product. Another justification for the study is that there is the data for porcine DNA detection in canned meat products sold in Sarawak is scarce. So from this study, we actually would like to collect some data on whether there is a possibility of occurrence of porcine DNA in canned product. The objective of the study are to first to detect porcine DNA in canned meat products sold in Sarawak using real-time PCR, and to compare the presence or absence of pork DNA with the availability of halal logo on the food products labeling. This flow chart demonstrate the method or the steps conducted in this study. For the sample collection, altogether we have 43 samples, which consists of poultry and also beef. And pork canned meat is used as a positive control. The selection of sample are based on the absence of certified JAKIM halal logo and the presence of foreign halal logo, halal certified, and also presence of fake halal logo. This figure shows some of the halal logo that were that were on the product packaging, in which we are testing this product, canned food product, in this study. Okay, after sample collection, we will extract the DNA using commercial method, which is using the easy American food kit. And then we will quantitate the DNA using spectrophotometer, and also the DNA integrity will be observed using gel electrophoresis, and the image will be visualized using gel imager. And then the DNA template will be used in a real-time polymerase chain reaction, which target the cytochrome B primer and probes. And the probes that we are using is hydrolysis Techman probe. For the positive result, we will validate the validated the positive result through DNA sequencing, and the chromatogram will be analyzed using BLAST in NCBI. These are the result of the experiment. So the figure 1 shows the DNA integrity, the gel image of the canned food product. Okay, all the DNA were denatured because the canned food product has been subjected to thermal treatment. Okay, however, due to we are using short amplicon size, which is less than 150 base pair, so the amplicon still get detected in the study. And figure 2 shows the representative image of amplification curve for porcine DNA detection in real-time PCR. This is just the representative image because we have a lot of sample. So from this table, okay, this table shows the CT value of canned meat product. So about 7 canned food sample from poultry category get detected for porcine DNA, whereas for the beef, there's about 3 sample will get detected with porcine DNA. The maximum cycle are 40 cycle. Okay, so those with a 40 figure here means that it was not get detected during the experiment. All right, so table 2 shows the summary, okay, summary of porcine DNA detection in canned food, okay, based on the present and absent of halal logo. So in summary, for poultry product, 7 out of 17, okay, poultry, in this case, chicken, 7 out of 17 canned food chicken product were detected with porcine DNA, and this sample is without the presence of certified JAKIM halal logo, and there is no detection for duck and also turkey canned food product. For beef product, 2 out of 20 sample of corned beef were detected of having positive porcine DNA, and this sample were without the present this sample are absent from certified JAKIM halal logo, and there is one sample which get detected, one corned beef sample which get detected in this sample bearing the fake halal logo. So this one of the sample is shown here, the halal logo is shown here. So in comparison with the foreign halal logo approved by JAKIM, okay, figure 5 shows the foreign halal logo approved by JAKIM, whereas figure 4 shows the halal logo which are found on the product labeling on the canned food product. So it is obvious that this halal this logo is not genuine, because we can see the spelling error here, supervised with supervised, and it is obvious that this halal logo is actually bogus. We can say it's bogus. Okay, and then for the other halal logo, okay, this one is the original, is the approved by JAKIM, whereas this one is the one that found on the food packaging with a circle inside the halal Arabic word. And then for the positive result, we send the sample for validation using DNA sequencing, and the result shows that the blast analysis shows that the similarity with Sus Secrofa DNA is ranging from 95.65% to 98.44%. So this is one of the representative result of one of the positive porcine DNA sample. And the accuracy of labeling is important to avoid deceiving the consumer. And in addition, the manufacturer also should adhere to the food standard. For example, we have three rules and regulation that are related to this study. The first one is Trade Description Order 2011, which emphasize on the use of certification and marking of halal logo. Okay, so and then we also have Food Act 1983 or Act 2 Act 1, which emphasize on the usage of labeling, and the false labeling will and the manufacturer which do not adhere to this labeling or put false labeling on your food product will be penalized. And then Food Regulation 1985 emphasize on the general regulation for food labeling. And besides
sorry, Ms. Nurhayati, you have can you wrap up in 1 minute's time?
Oh, okay, almost there. Okay. So beside that, cross contamination also lead to unintentional mislabeling. All right, so my conclusion, okay, so this study is hoped to become one of the reference for agencies and target communities to overcome the doubt in Muslim community, or also individuals who are allergic to pork. And this study also serves as important knowledge and awareness regarding the use of halal logo and food product. And future work will include the detection of other food product or local products sold in Sarawak. These are the reference on my study, and I would like to thank the financial support from my institution and my supervisor, Associate Professor Dr. Muhammad Nasir Muhammad Desa, Supervisory Committee, colleague, and also other individuals who directly involved or indirectly involved upon the completion of this project. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you, Ms. Nurhayati.
Right.
We'll have the next presenter, that is Dr. Syed Muhammad Kamaluddin from Bangladesh University of Health Science and University of Malaya. He will be sharing on the quantitative detection of different meat species in foods by multiplex real-time PCR assay. Dr. Syed, the time is yours.
Yeah. Can you?
Yes. Can you make full screen, please?
Full screen, yeah.
No, it's not in full screen yet. Maybe you can unshare and share again.
Unshare, yeah, it's not share.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, now you can see.
Not yet.
Even the full screen here.
Yeah, we can't see your slides though.
Oh, you cannot see slide. I'm sharing the slide now.
No. Wait. Yes, can you see the slides? Can you make it full screen? Full screen is at the corner, right bottom.
Sorry. You can see the slide, yeah, but not full
Yeah,
screen.
not presentation. Do you click the slideshow?
Slide. Now you can see full screen. I'm sharing the slide.
Make it full screen, please. Click the slideshow.
Yeah, slideshow. You can see the
Yeah.
slide?
Can see the slides, cannot see the slideshow.
Or slideshow, yeah.
Yes, can. You can proceed now.
Oh, yeah, okay. I can start now? Okay. Okay, let me start now.
Yes, you can start now.
Assalamualaikum. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Very good morning. This is the presentation of my research finding entitled Quantitative Detection of Different Meat Species in Foods by Multiplex Real-Time PCR Assay. Meat and meat products is a vital component of our healthy, well-balanced diet because they provide different types of high-quality proteins, minerals, vitamins, micronutrients, which are very essential for the proper functioning of our body organ. And globally, about 2 billion people primarily depend on meat-based food. Due to increased demand and high price, meat and meat products are very often adulterated in both developed and developing countries, Recently, there have been a lot of meat scandals all over the world. Among them, horse meat scandal in Europe in 2013 was the most remarkable one, where horse meat was detected in beef burgers. There are other meat scandals. For example, China police seized huge amount of fake beef that was prepared by chemically treated pork. Some unconventional or objectionable meat species like rat meat, monkey meat, cat meat, and dog meat was also identified in different restaurants in various countries. Therefore, the authenticity of meat and meat products is very important, and the incidences of adulteration created increased concerns among the consumers. Meat adulteration affects both from financial, religious, and medical issues. For example, we know that many animal species are the carriers of zoonotic diseases. Some may cause allergies to people. There are also religious and lifestyle issues because pork is strictly restricted in Islam and Judaism. Hindus do not accept beef, and vegans and vegetarians avoid all kinds of animal materials in their diet. Therefore, indiscriminate use of animal species in food creates concern among the consumers. I have selected 7 animal species like cow, buffalo, goat, sheep, chicken, duck, and pig for their quantitative detection in the food chain, because these animals are highly consumed all over the world. They have religious and medical issues, and research studies shows that they are very often adulterated mutually. Therefore, the exact identification is very important in food chain. Mainly, there are 2 types of species detection in food chain. One, protein-based methods, and another is DNA-based methods. However, protein-based methods are not suitable for complex food study because protein biomarkers are easily destroyed by heat. It takes longer time to detect, and only raw meat detection is possible, and very closely related species like cow and buffalo cannot be differentiated by this method. However, DNA-based methods are much more popular and useful because they use DNA molecules as biomarkers, which is very high, which is very heat stable. It is very sensitive, specific, and can differentiate the very close related species. Moreover, multiple target detection is possible with DNA-based methods. That's why DNA-based methods got huge popularity. Among the DNA-based methods, PCR methods are the most popular and widely used. There are 2 types of PCR-based methods: conventional and real-time quantitative PCR. Conventional PCR only detects or indicates the presence or absence of the meat or target species. They take longer time, and the detection is possible only after the completion of the method or analysis. But real-time PCR assay, that is quantitative PCR assay, both detects and quantify the data. They are very rapid and fully automated, and real-time monitoring is possible. That's why I have used quantitative PCR for my detection of the animal species. Here is the methodology at a glance. After collecting samples, I have extracted DNA from them, and the quantity and quality of DNA was determined. 7 sets of primers and probes were designed using the DNA sequences in the NCBI database. And by using the primer 3+ software, the specificity was tested first in silico. After single-plex PCR assay, multiplex real-time quantitative assays were developed, and their specificity was tested, sensitivity was determined, assay validation was performed by mixed samples, and finally commercial meat products were screened. These are the timers and probes that I have used in my study for all the targets. I have run 2 qPCR assays, one for cow, buffalo, goat, sheep, and named as qPCR1, and another for chicken, duck, and pig, that is qPCR2. Internal amplification control, that is IAC, was included in each assay. It is clear from the picture that the assay amplified all the target spaces, that is, for these target spaces, the assay gave detectable fluorescence signals, and also for qPCR2, there are detectable fluorescence signals for all the targets. I have tested the specificity of the assays by using DNA from the 7 target species and 23 other non-target animal and plant species. And the assay gave detectable fluorescence signals only for the target species without any cross amplification. And the non-target species did not give any detectable fluorescence signals. Moreover, the internal amplification control, that is IAC, gave the detectable fluorescence signals for all the targets and non-target species. Therefore, the assays were highly specific only for the targets. I have determined the limit of detection of all the target species by using 10 times serially diluted DNA starting from 60 nanogram to 0.006 nanogram DNA concentration. And it is clear that all the target species gave detectable fluorescence signals up to 0.006 nanogram DNA concentration. These are the, and finally, thus the limit of detection of the target species is up to 0.006 nanogram DNA. These are the limited erotic standard curves for qPCR1, and these are the standard curves for qPCR2, that is. And all the standard curves gave very good linear regressions, and the PCR efficiencies were also very satisfactory, which are within the benchmark limit. And to quantify the target species, the CT values, that is the threshold cycle values of the qPCR assays, were interpolated in the corresponding standard curves. These are the standard curves. And the target species were quantified by plotting the CT values in the y-axis and the log DNA concentration in the x-axis, and from the standard curve, the concentration of DNA in the unknown sample was quantified. And then the target meat species was quantified as percentages using the formula here. I have determined the limit of detection of the assays by using deliberately adulterated meat products that I have prepared in the laboratory under different adulteration levels, that is 10%, 5%, and 1%, and got that all the target species were detected until 1% adulteration. The assays gave very good recovery results, and the linear regressions were also very, and the RSD were also very satisfactory.
Dr. Sai, you have 1 minute left.
Yeah, finally, I have done the market survey, taking on different types of meat products from different markets in Malaysia, and found that I have taken about 45 meat products and got very high level of adulteration in beef products. That is for about a maximum of 100% adulteration in beef products, although some other meat products are also adulterated, but none of the halal meat products was contaminated with non-halal pig materials or porcine materials, because Malaysian government is very strict in maintaining halal authenticity of the food. So in conclusion, there is a conclusion. I have got very high stability of the assays by using short length applicons. The assay was very sensitive, up to 0.006 nanogram DNA in raw state and 1% in mixed samples. And assay validation was performed by model and commercial meat products, and very high level of buffalo adulteration was observed in beef products, and no non-halal material was observed in any meat products. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Said. Next presenter will be Miss Meshini Pari from Quest International University, Malaysia. She will be talking on elicitor mediated betulins production from callus culture of Gompharia globus. Time is yours. Dr. Said, can you unshare your screen? Okay, done. Yeah.
Okay, hold on.
All right.
Is it visible, Doctor?
Yeah, can see your screen. Wait for the slideshow to appear. No, I can't see the slideshow.
How about now?
Nope, I can see your slide, but not the slideshow.
Okay, now?
Still the same. When you click the share screen, can you click the PowerPoint instead of your screen? Maybe you can unshare and share again.
Okay. Is it better now, Doctor?
Can't see your screen though. The full screen.
Maybe I'll share the entire screen and see if it works.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. Can I start now?
All right. Okay, so thank you very much, Dr. Puri, for the introduction. Good morning, everybody. My name is Meshini Pari. I am a student from Quest International University based in Ipoh, Perak. And today I'll be presenting about my project titled Elicitor Mediated Betulin Production from callus culture using the plant Gompharia globosa. Okay, so begin my presentation with the picture presented to you right now. Many speak of delicacies today actually have a very bright and colorful presentation decorated on them. And this is with an aim to attract us consumers to buy them with our first sight without actually knowing how it tastes like. And this, my friend, is the power of food coloring. However, over the course of years, due to high intake of synthetic food coloring, it has brought to multiple health effects among consumers, and this includes irritability, aggression, breathlessness, and some severe cases can lead to ADHD and brain tumors, reported among children as well as in adults. Due to this, consumers have shifted their focus to use more on naturally derived pigments. And in my study, I had worked with a natural derived plant pigment known as betulins. So what are betulins exactly? These are found present in the Caryophyllalis order in the amaranthine plant family. For example, we have Beta, Gomphrena, Celosia, as well as Amaranthus. So when I say betaline, it is a pigment that can exist as beta-cyanine, giving off a red-violet coloration, as well as beta-xanthine, giving off a yellow to orange pigmentation. At first, betaline was thought to be anthocyanin, which is another type of plant pigment, because they do have similar properties. However, when they were found that they couldn't coexist in the same plant, they were concluded to be mutually exclusive. So these betaline pigments can be used as food coloring as well in dietary supplement. As of now, betaline that has been produced by beetroot has been used successfully as red food coloring in the market. However, it is not highly favorable to all consumers because of its earthy flavor and smell, and also the commercial method to produce it requires high plant sample. So as an alternative, I worked with a natural betaline bearing plant known as Gomphrena globosa. So the picture presented to you on my right is how the plant actually looks like. It can exist in magenta, pink, orange, and white color. But in my project, I put the magenta colored flower. So this is a hardy plant that can survive in extreme conditions. And it also has medicinal properties where the plant has been used in traditional medicine to treat against respiratory diseases. Now, using plant tissue culturing technique, I had grown the plant in callus culture that would act as a biofactory in terms of producing this betaline pigment. So why? Because callus culture can actually ensure that consistent and continuous production with maintaining the uniform and quality as well as the yield of the pigment throughout the year. So since it is grown in a controlled condition, the callus culture wouldn't actually be affected by any environmental factors that needs to be a concern. Besides that, it can also help to produce large scale of this pigment in shorter period of time. So if it's high in demand in the future, it shouldn't be a problem. So the callus culture was further treated with elicitors also. This is mainly to help enhance the synthesis of the betaline pigment, where the elicitors will trigger changes in the metabolism of the plant to do so. Now coming to the problem statement, first it was found that it's actually difficult to achieve high pigmentation in the callus culture of betaline bearing plant. And secondly, the cultivation of betaline bearing plants are mostly seasonal and regional dependent. So this comes to my objective, which is first, to induce callus from high hypocotyl of the plant Gomphrena globosa using an optimized medium for the betaline production. And second, examining the effects of the elicitors, namely tyrosine, copper sulfate, and salicylic acid, upon the growth as well as the production of betaline in the Gomphrena globosa callus. So now I would like to describe the method that I went throughout this process. So first, Gomphrena globosa seeds were actually cleaned as well as sterilized, and followed by germinating them in half-strength MS medium in a jam jar. So it was left to incubate for 2 weeks until the explant had grown, where it was then excised. The hypocotyl was excised to be used for inducing callus on full-strength MS medium. So for inducing callus, PGR was supplemented into the media of 0.5 milligram per liter, 2,4-D, and 1.0 milligram per liter BAP. And a total of 60 replicates was produced for 4 weeks of incubation period. So after 4 weeks, this is how the callus would look like, where each plate had a total of 5 hypocotyl. And from here, the dark pink callus was chosen for further elicitation treatment for another 4 weeks. So for elicitation treatment, I prepared 1 control plate and another 3 plates with the elicited tyrosine, copper sulfate, and salicylic acid in their respective concentration. So each concentration, a total of 3 replicates was produced. So after the elicitation treatment for 4 weeks, the callus was analyzed based on their size, color, as well as the betaline content. So let's move on to the results that was obtained. Starting with the induction of callus, the figure here shows when the hypocotyl was placed on the optimized media for induction of callus for the first day, moving on to the first week, second week, third week, and finishing off with the 4th week. So promising results could actually be seen by the 2nd week with small swelling structures of red pink coloration. And by the 4th week, fully formed healthy calluses was observed, where there was a varying range in the pink shades. We could see like dark pink, light pink, peach, as well as orange. And this result was actually consistent among the 60 replicates. So from here, the dark green was chosen for further elicitation treatment. So analyzing them beginning with the size, we found that copper sulfate managed to produce callus with the biggest size, particularly when 25 micromolar of concentration was supplemented. So it had an increase more than 13-fold as been shown in figure 3. However, with further increase in the copper sulfate concentration, there was no further increase in the callus size. As for tyrosine, it could be seen that minute increment from the size was seen in comparison to the control callus. And for salicylic acid, the result was very fluctuating, and it did manage to produce the callus with the smallest size when 200 micromolar of salicylic acid was supplemented. Now let's look into the visual results of the color as well as the texture of the callus. So beginning with the control callus, which is represented with 0 micromolar in my slides, the texture of the callus appeared to be more compact, and the pigmentation was more of a green color with orange to yellow shades surrounding the callus. For tyrosine, it was observed that it managed to produce callus with the highest pink intensity as comparison to the other two elicitors. Particularly when 100 micromolar of concentration was in use, more amount of pink colored callus was produced all around it, and it was found to be similar to the replicates. As for the texture, it was also found to be compact. Moving on to salicylic acid, so here there were pink colored callus formed, but the intensity of the pink colored callus it was not as much as what was seen in tyrosine. It was also found to be forming mostly on the edges of the callus. As for the texture, it was a friable callus where it was so fragile to handle because it kept breaking. And lastly, for copper sulfate, very minute amount of like light pink to peach calluses was formed here and there. It was not consistent. And the callus mostly appeared to be very similar to the control callus with green pigmentation to yellow and orange shades surrounding the callus. As for the texture, it was also compact. So the last analysis is the betaline content of the callus. So it could be seen that tyrosine actually managed to produce the highest betaline content, particularly 100 micromolar in concentration of it. And this result was compared to the highest compared to the other elicitors that were used. As for salicylic acid, it did produce the betaline content with the lowest amount, and there was no significant difference observed between the 50 up to 200 micromolar in concentration. Lastly, for copper sulfate, you could see that there are very minute differences between both the beta-cyanine and the beta-xanthine content. And when it came to 25 micromolar concentration, almost equal ratios of these two contents was observed. So concluding my entire presentation, we could be seeing that using hypocotyl onto the optimized media, it was able to induce the callus culture to help produce the betaline pigment. As for the elicitation process, tyrosine was found to be the most effective to enhance the beta-cyanine content of callus, and it will be more suitable to supplement the media with 100 micromolar tyrosine. As for elicitation with copper sulfate, it did help to produce the callus with bigger size, but it was not very effective when it came to enhancing the pigmentation. And lastly, for salicylic acid, it was unfortunately found to be not consistent neither to increase the callus size nor the betaline content. So these are the references that I had used for my presentation today, and that's all from me. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Mishini. So now we open for the session of Q&A. You guys have any questions you want to ask the different speakers and also the oral presenters? You can either unmute yourself or you can comment in the chat. Okay, while waiting for question from the participants, perhaps we can have a session of photography with all the photo taking with all the speakers. Dr. Nasir, Dr. Yanti, and you can on your camera and we can snap a photo later. With We've also Mr. Abu Hashim, Ms. Nohayati, Dr. Said, and Ms. Meshini. Okay, I have 1, 2, 3, and Dr. Yanti is not here. Okay, I'll just take the photo. 1, 2, 3. Okay, do you have any questions from the floor? Yes, we have one question for Meshini from Dayang Izawati. Is betulin exist in other violet color flowers? Example, bunga telang or pigeon wings or morning glory?
Yes, hi, Ms. Dayang. Thank you for the question. So it's not entirely sure if betulin can actually exist in all flowers that exhibit violet color. Sometimes it also can be another pigment called anthocyanin because they also have the similar pigmentation. So the question to your answer is no, not all violet color flower would have betulin. It has to be tested what kind of pigment that is. That's all for me.
Okay, thank you. Any more questions? Perhaps I can pose another question to Dr. Nasir. What do you think that is the current trends or like the ongoing research or future research trends in the halal research for food science in Malaysia?
Yeah, thank you. There is always actually opportunity because foods are evolving, food formulations are evolving. Okay, so there is actually one area for product developments, food-based product developments, for quality, what we call it premiumizations of food products. So always open for improvements because we have to compete with the competitions in business. Competition is very high, so we always have to strive for better products. So, but of course, if you want to get certifications, all these efforts will have to comply with the halal requirements. Which on the other sides, for halal certifications, so we have to struggle to come up with the new methods to deal with the evolving food products. Of course, halal also expanding into pharmaceutical, cosmetics, supplements, which actually we have done a lot of work on foods analysis, but now we have to tailor towards this new area, which is towards the health related products, which is going to be a lot more challenging because it's not easy we can identify all the chemical elements, but to authenticate is actually very challenging work today. So I think there is a good prospects because this is something that will never end, because we eat every day. So there will always be opportunities in this area. So yeah.
Okay, there's another question for you from Larson. What's your opinion or Islamic opinion about seafood or meat from stem cells, particularly on lead-based meat?
Stem cells, this is the genetic engineering. Stem cell, there has been a lot of discussion on this. So we don't have actually, to my knowledge, we don't have actually a thorough guideline yet how to determine the status of the stem cell related products in terms of the religious perspective. But there has been, I just in my slide also, I put up a slide on the cultured meats. There is another, future challenges because probably in the future we don't know, we're not sure. Global warmings probably they will affect food production, and we have to turn towards something which can be grown in the labs. So as of now, probably I would say we don't have the problem yet.
Okay. Future problems to solve later.
Something going on in the future. Actually, there is always flexibility in the Islams. There is always flexibility because this is not my area, but I know how they come up with the what we call it fatwa, the new rulings. Rulings can be, there are some basic which cannot be changed, but some rule can be changed to adapt with the current situations, current circumstances, which is what we call, there is one concept in the Sharia where the well-beings, the health, the well-beings of the humans is at the top priority. Okay, same thing as what's going on now with the COVID, a lot of anti-vaccine and so on. Some say vaccines are not halal, but in this case, this is we call it the something that we have to act very fast, because this is about disease. People are dying, so we have to put the well-beings of humans at the tops. So we can come up with new rulings towards well-beings, human well-beings. Okay, so there's always flexibility. So those who are working in STEM cell, go ahead, no problems. We need to generate new knowledge, new product, no problems. Halal, we can come later on and see whether we can do something, how to adjust whether we need to come up with new rulings and so on. So don't worry, there's always flexibility. Thank you.
Thanks, Nasir. We have another question for Dr. Yanti. Dr. Yanti, are you there? Okay, I think she's not there at the moment. We will keep the question for her.
Yes, Dr. Pui.
Okay, Dr. Yanti, there's one question for you. May I know if the substitute lard taste or smell like the real lard?
Of course not. Because
Can you describe more?
Because the lard has a meaty smell or meaty flavor, but the substitute is from plant-based origin. So of course the smell of the taste.
How about the acceptability in terms of the acceptance, sensory acceptance? Okay, so I think Dr. Yanti is a bit frozen now. Yeah. Maybe you can off your camera so we can hear you better. Okay, Dr. Yanti is out from the Zoom. Never mind. Maybe we can proceed on to next question. I have a question for Ms. Norhayati. Yeah, how do you, after you have taken note on the presence of fake logos, what is the next step? What is the next step? Any like intervention that you brought up this issue to the person that is supposed to be monitoring all this? So what is the next step for your findings?
Actually, this is considered a preliminary study. Okay. Before we can do that kind of intervention, I think we need to validate the result with other organization first.
Okay. Thank you. Do you have any more questions? Okay, I think looks like we don't really have any questions. Perhaps we can end this session. Okay. Thank you everyone for your presence today, especially for Dr. Nasser, Dr. Yanti, Mr. Abu Hashim, Ms. Nohayati, Dr. Said, and also Ms. Meshini Pari. Okay, thank you for all presenters.
Thank you.
We will have a lunch break later on from 12:15 to 2 p.m. And after that, we will resume back in Hall 1, Hall 1, for the poster judging session, Q&A session at 2 to 3 p.m. See you guys tomorrow. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Phu.
Thank you.
Okay, bye-bye.
Thank you very much.